Ladies and gentlemen, you are watching the third episode of Freebie Friday. And guess what? This is where we do website and social media tips, tricks, and action items. And I am here today with the only person on the planet that I know that is cooler than Buck Rogers and Twiggy put together. That is Don Stanley, or at 3Rhino Media. And of course, I'm at George B. Thomas. And Don, what are you doing this week? How's things going?
Things are going well. Still wintry up in my neck of the woods, although we did not get slammed like the folks on the East Coast, the poor folks on the East Coast, and excited to be ready to help out a fellow Midwestern business this week.
There we go. Who actually are we looking at this week, Don?
We are scoping out the White Bear Montessori School.
Awesome.
So we're going the education route. Yeah.
Right. So far we've done a nonprofit, we've done a business, now we're doing a school. And I just want all the viewers to know that if you have a site that you want us to, put the smack down or show the love, depending on what your site's like, we are open. We have a couple slots that are opening up in a couple weeks. But just reach out to us on Twitter. You can see our Twitter handles here on the screen, and we can put you in the slot to do this. So here's what we're going to do today, Don. We're going to spice it up a little bit. And when I flip over to the website, I'm going to immediately say how it makes me feel. And while I'm doing that, that'll give you probably about 6 to 10 seconds to think about or find out what they do. Okay?
Sounds good. We need some like beado sounds or something as we're switching screens.
Right, we do. We need a little sun, or make it slide or something. Well, all right, so let's do this. We're going to go ahead and flip over to White Bear Montessori and take a ride on the wild side. Okay, so immediately I'm torn because I'm happy because I see smiling kids, but I'm also feeling a little cramped because that top navigation and the logo, it just feels very like scrunched together. And in my eyes, the background pattern, it's cool, but it's a little rough on my eyes. So that's my initial feelings. Don, what do they do?
Well, the benefit that they have is they have the logo that has the name of what they do, the White Bear Montessori School. And a lot of people are familiar with Montessori, which helps. One of the things that, that they do is obviously children's education. I'm not sure what the grades are that they serve here, and if I'm not very familiar with Montessori, I might not know what the differences are, but I can definitely tell it's a school, like you said, smiling, happy kids on it, and the idea that they've got an open house as well, that they're looking at gearing up for the new school year. So all of those things kind of fit in, and right below towards the bottom of the screen you see what is the right school for my children. So that helps as well, a headline that reinforces that idea of school.
So here's the deal, Don, and I want to scroll down a little bit, but I want to jump. We always usually ask one of the questions, how do we contact them? So let's talk about that for a second. Obviously we see the contact us button in the top right here, but other than that, there's no real quick way to like pick up a phone and dial them, or if I'm on my mobile device, there's no link that I can click and it makes my mobile device ring to the office or something like that. So that's kind of interesting to me, but I want to dive past that because you started talking and saying questions in that first part that I find very interesting. And it really kind of gets me excited because, you started to say questions like, and I'm going to scroll down here, what is Montessori? Like people might not know what Montessori is, but look at the second block, right? They understand that, and they say, well, some people might not know what Montessori is. And then I like that they're talking about success. I really don't know what that means, success beyond academics, without reading it. But and then look at this, right? So the other question was, I don't know really what grades they teach, but here we can start to see like toddlers, kindergarten, elementary. And so these initial questions that you had that were we couldn't see above the fold, if you will, are being addressed below the fold, which is very interesting. However, I'm not real happy. I'm happy, but I'm not real happy, and I'll explain that in a little bit. So let's dive into, Don, what you think the three biggest problems with the White Bear Montessori School site is?
Well, I think one of the problems is that some of that content is a little bit below the fold. And one of the things when you think about people choosing a school for their children, one of the things that I find really helpful, parents care a lot about and invest a lot of time researching things that are related to their children, and so they have some good information below. And one of the things I think would be more valuable is to place some of that above the fold. And what I would be really, really tempted to do is where that it says where children learn the values and skills, etc., is have some kind of call to action to download ebook or something like instead of having down below like they have 10 reasons why Montessori is right for you, 10 ways to choose the best school for your child. Whether it's Montessori or not, we're here to help you understand the questions you should ask when you're making a choice for your kid. And I think that's a big one for me, is that help educate me. Don't just talk about and it kind of says that what is the right school for my children, but give me some quick pointers that go beyond what's in that post. So it's kind of a hero as well in this case, where they've got some of that already showing up. Another thing that I think could is lacking to some degree is like showing some of the activities that the school is involved in and what they're doing, because I know that's one of the big reasons people pick quote unquote alternative schools, is to find out, well, what are the things outside of the traditional classroom that go on. And yes, in the navigation you have the programs button, but highlighting some of the activities. Are there activities where the kids get to do things outdoors regularly? I know that some schools, like in my area that are Montessori's, are affiliated with like forests and other outdoor areas, so the kids get to do real cool science stuff being outside. And then the third one is a design item that you already mentioned, and hopefully I'm not stealing from you here, but the background, it's kind of interesting, but it's kind of I'm not quite sure about it.
Yeah, and I'm not going to talk about that, Don, because you talked about the background, and I have some other things that I want to hit. So one of the problems I think that really needs to be addressed on this site is the top header section, where the logo is. To me, the logo feels a little antiquated, to be honest with you. And the circle or the oval, it's very squeezed. The text feels like it's pinched in there. And then you move over to the menu. And
can I jump in for just a second?
Yeah.
What it reminds me of, and again, this is meant out of love and respect and tough love for the people that we're reviewing for, but we do want to be raw and real. It reminds me of in the late 90s when everybody was putting a swoosh around their logo that was somewhat circular and an oval, and everybody was doing it. And so when you said antiquated, it's like, yeah, that's what it is, because it was that common design technique. I don't know what to do, so I'm going to throw a swoosh around it. And yeah, very much so. That looks, if it had kind of a classic feel to it, that would be one thing, but I don't think it really does.
So, well, yeah, I mean, if you were doing retro, right? If the whole site was retro, then this would really fit in there. But and folks, I just got to say this: you heard it first. When in doubt, put a swoosh around it. That's right from Don Stanley's mouth. So I mean,
there was actually a website back in the day where they took every logo and put a swoosh around it just to show, and it was so funny because a lot of companies would take that idea and actually use it.
That's awesome. So onto this, the menu, it feels a little cramped, right? I think you could open these buttons up a little bit. I think you could do a little bit different, but it's nice. I mean, there's drop downs and all that, so. It just feels cramped to me. Here's the other thing. Their use statement, while I think their use statement is really good, so this part, what I'm talking about, Don, is where children learn the values and skills to be responsible, respectful, and resourceful. As I read this, I'm like, man, this is golden, but I really want to add one word to it, and I would add your in here, where your children learn the values and skills, because then you're immediately giving ownership to the person who has landed on the page, right?
Absolutely.
It's not any child, but it's my child. And if it's my child, Don, you know what? Then it's special. Then it means something, right? And that's just how we parents are. We're just goofy like that. Now, here's my big thing, and I can't really sum this up into something quick and easy. So this might take a minute, Don, and you can jump in and we can kind of hammer back and forth on this one. But the main objective of a home page is to get you to the second page. And if I start to scroll down this page, what I realize is that I'm scrolling for a very long time. There's just like a lot of information. And now, Don, I know, and one of the heroes that we're going to talk about later is that this site is mobile. But so on mobile, I know this is really going to be a lot of scrolling, right? And so what I start to think about it is there ways that we can compact this information, or are there ways that we can only talk about maybe the first paragraph, and then what is Montessori gets the rest of the story gets told on another page, or you tease them about success beyond academics. Maybe instead of this being a whole paragraph, it's just like, I don't know, maybe you could do like the 3-box thing, right? Or 2 boxes. Maybe it's 4 boxes.
Absolutely.
4 boxes in a grid that says, what's the right school for my child? What is Montessori? Success beyond academics, in a nice 4-box grid. And then I get down here to the toddlers, preschool, kindergarten, and I start to think about, is there a way that I could just put, because these, again, I love these images. The images are awesome. Is there a way that I could just put these 4 images together across this page? And if I widen this page to like 1200 pixels, then I have a lot more room for design. And I just put like this toddler 16 through 30, like nice, and like at the bottom of the image with maybe, a 60% opaque white and the orange text on top of it, so that you could have like all 4 of those buckets in like a square, of what these 2 would have like all 4 in them, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then
yep, absolutely.
And you started to hit on something else here. So 10 reasons to choose Montessori. Dude, I totally think that there should be this image, a headline. There should be a little bit of copy and maybe 3 reasons, and then a button that says, to learn all the reasons why to choose Montessori, download our helpful guide. And this is another like bottom of the page, below the fold call to action and lead generation that, hey, folks want to know more about Montessori and 10 reasons that I should send my child there. And then serving the communities here. It doesn't I get that you have to tell people where you serve, but it doesn't make sense. And as I looked at this site, Don, I started to think, boy, it'd be cool if this information could be incorporated down here into this very, like, at this point, non-effective, very small footer section, right? So maybe you have the map, maybe you have in the middle this copy of serving these communities, and then over here you have a list of those communities that you're serving, and it's all that one piece, but in the footer area. Yep. I'm almost done, Don. I told you this is going to be very hard to get into one simple thing. I love that they have recent educational articles, but I don't like the fact that there's all this white space down here, yes. Right? It almost looks to me like, well, this is unfinished. And I need to talk about a hero that they're using. They're using HubSpot to do this. I can just tell.
And, fantastic.
Yeah, and I don't know, this might be the first one that's used HubSpot, but I can see right here they're using HubSpot. And they're pulling these. So with knowing that, Don, I know that they could actually create these feeds like this off of a topic. And so you might have one topic of your blog on this side, and it says related articles, or maybe it's recent and maybe it's popular, right? You figure out the combination, but have 3 instead of 5, maybe just have 3 recent and 3 popular, or 3 from this topic and 3 from that topic. So that this starts to feel nice and full and level and even, and and so with doing that, you lose all this space and it crunches up the site a little bit more, but you fill up this space and it starts to feel even. All that to say, Don, I think there are some really awesome ways that they could move the information they have around. I think they could slim down some of what they're presenting. And then as well as use some for lead gen and tell some of the story on other pages. So that was my biggest issue, is how long and how much of a conversation we were trying to have on the home page.
Absolutely, and I think you nailed a really critical point, and that's the what this would look like on a mobile. As you mentioned, we're gonna both say that one of the heroes is that it is mobile friendly, but when you think about people who have young kids today, I don't know the numbers. I can't give you clear statistics, but I would bet technically a lot of them have smartphones. And when you think about that, they're probably going to be hearing about this school from a friend or something, and maybe their first interaction is going to be on a smartphone or an iPad. There is a lot of scrolling here, and I think cutting down on some of that language and giving more targeted options where you're reducing the length of the scroll as well as some of that empty white space on the page, really just those two little things would significantly help with that mobile experience.
Yeah, Don, and hey, here's the deal. We brought the knowledge on episode 2 when we told all the viewers that there are more mobile phones out there than toothbrushes, right? Sold. So,
I was going to tell you, one of my students, I mentioned in my marketing class to my class, and one of my students didn't believe it, so we had to do some research, and sure enough,
it's there. I'm telling you, you heard it first on Freebie Friday, right? All right, so let's do this because we've given White Bear Montessori some things to think about on their homepage. Let's go ahead and dive into what we think the heroes of the site are. I'll let you go first.
Okay, one of the things that I think is a hero is it's not showing up right now, but they do have a subscribe to our blog that pops up. So if you're on the site long enough, or you scroll down far enough, you eventually get this subscribe to the blog pop up. Now, the reason that I say that's a hero is it allows some type of interactivity if you make the screen look the size of a mobile. You start to narrow the screen down. But what I would be really tempted to do is, instead of having that pop-up box saying subscribe to our blog, have that pop-up box appear, and you can see it's kind of irregular here. There it is in the lower right-hand corner. Have that appear as 10 reasons on how to pick the best school for your kid, or how to know what the best fit for your parenting, a best educational fit for your parenting style is, or something like that as an initial call to action. So I love that they have something and they're thinking about that. But one of the, when you think about who this site is for, if it's for parents who already have kids in this school, the blog is a great example of content that they would want to have. But if the site, which it seems to me is more geared towards trying to attract people to come to the school, to consider bringing their children to it, you want to help them. They're not going to want to subscribe to your blog because they're just seeking information. Give them that top of the funnel, that first level piece of information to help them gain clarity on, well, how do I pick a school? Because I know that for all parents, you don't want to make a bad choice. So help me make a right choice. And that's where I think they could start to build some thought leadership and some connection and some trust and interaction with people by having that come up. And of course, you can tell if somebody's visited the site multiple times and not have the box pop up on every page every time. And I think so they're along the right track with that. Another hero is the content's really good. I mean, they've clearly thought about some of what people would want, and there can be some tweaks to it, but they've got the 10 reasons to choose. They've got the how do I the right school for my children. They've got some stuff already that clearly shows that they've thought about things from the perspective of a parent, and I think that is really, really important and really critical. And then if you dig deeper, like if you go onto the click on the link of what is the right school for my children. So if you could go ahead and do that. Yeah, I got to go back to the home page, and right there, so this is another thing that they're doing well, and I think they need to amp this up a little, is showing pictures of the building as well. and giving people a sense of what the place is like. My kid's going to be there all day. What's the learn? Is it warm? Is it invited? Is it cold? Sterile? Is it really interactive, etc.? And the one thing that I'll point out on this that's kind of makes it a little bit less of a hero is that when it says the link on the whole homepage says what is the right school for my children, then I click brief introduction. So it's no longer a how do I choose the right school? It's now talking to me about Montessori and almost selling me on Montessori, if that makes sense. So it's kind of a combination where they've got this great image showing the buildings, showing the facilities. It's just a single image. I think it'd be great to have a few more than just that. But those are some they've got right, and a few things that they can just do a little bit of polishing as well. How about you? What are some of your superheroes for this?
Yeah, definitely. And I like how you dug in. So I hadn't really paid attention to this part as much, but my hero, once you started talking about the subscribe button on the blog, my hero actually is that I don't see a subscribe to my blog on the home page or any of these other pages really, but when I go to the blog and get in an actual article, that then they're having a convenient conversation that needs to happen because I'm in that area of subscribing. I do think with you, Don, I think the subscribe to the blog actually is a hero down here. And if you go to different pages, it's actually consistent across all blog pages. What I think the disconnect is that why this isn't as much of a superhero is because they need another call to action to be right here underneath the blog article when you're finished, so that the primary is right in with the primary call to action, I should say, is right in with the content. And then the subscribe button is like your secondary call to action, so that you still do have that conversation like you were talking about of, here's the information. I definitely love a couple things other than that, though. I like the fact that I see a Facebook and Twitter icons. So here's the deal. It's up top on the blog, but if I go back to the home page, it's nowhere up here. So this is kind of a plus and a minus. But if you scroll clear down here, it's down here too. So, maybe if I'm on the home page, I want to see that there's a Facebook and Twitter, because when I got to the blog, I got excited to know that, I can engage with them on the normal platforms that I'm used to using as well. I love the fact, and we've talked about this multiple times, how it's responsive to the mobile device. Mm-hmm. That's a huge hero. But more than that, I think the biggest thing is with education, it is about the images. And I think on this site, the images are the hero. From the home page, it's smiling kids. You see the classroom. You see that walls are clean. You see that it's, nice wooden. It's safe. It's, the couches are their size. I mean, you just start to get a feel more through the pictures than the copy. What an awesome place this is. Now, here's why I say that, Don. Because when I get into this blog article, I've got one lead image, and then I've got a whole lot of copy. And I think you could tell these blog stories, because it should be stories. You could tell these blog stories with more supporting images in them. So that's the image is the hero. Use more images, and just keep rocking out what you're doing. This is actually, they got a lot of really good things going for them. I think it's just a matter of kind of tweaking what they're doing a little bit, and dude, they'll be smashing this out of the park. So let's this is where sometimes it goes off the rails in the other episodes we've done so far. Let's go ahead and look at their social media. I'm gonna flip over to Facebook, and I want you to kind of give me your thoughts, and then I'll give you mine after that. So, are you ready?
I'm locked and loaded.
All right, here we go. Facebook, here we come.
Now the dramatic drum roll. There we go. A couple of things that I really like. There is congruency with the logo. Right away has the name of the school. I know I'm in the right place. One of the things that I find interesting is that with the white space around that logo on their Facebook page, it doesn't look nearly as cramped as it does on the website. And I think that's really nice. And I also like the fact that on their Facebook page, they do have that visual consistency with the logo, that they also include that they've been around since 1970. So, that talks about the stability of the school, that talks about the long-term commitment that they've had to education, and I think for parents that adds some some stability or some confidence in possibly selecting. I also love, and this is where you mentioned the picture, the photo at the top, which shows the outside of the building, and you've got these great looking butterfly garden. You can obviously tell the kids have been photoshopped into that image, but it's kind of a neat, it looks like a neat space, kind of all encompassing. And then the other thing that I do like about it is that they've got clear connection. When I looked at that blog article, first of all, how can you not love that picture of a little kid thumb up with scuba gear on? I mean, that's just so stinking cute. And then I also see it here on the Facebook page, so they're obviously using those in a connected way, which makes me feel like, okay, these do belong together. Some of the other examples we've looked at don't have that, but in this case, you do have that.
Okay, so I'll agree with you on a couple of things, but I totally disagree on a couple other things. Okay.
All right.
So I love the fact that they are using their logo again. I agree. It's amazing they've added more information. So here you just have the logo and it feels cramped. Here you have the logo and more information and it doesn't feel as cramped. But you know what? Timeless education since 1970. Holy crap. Let's have that story here on the homepage, right? Because the word I think you were looking for, Don, is trust. Like, if you've been doing education since 1970, I'm going to immediately start to trust you more. Now, let's talk about what they're posting, because I'm going to save this image for last. So the posting is great, but I think they have a little bit of a glitch. And I'm not sure what's going on here, but they might want to check it out, because these are duplicate posts right here, right?
Yes.
Back to back. And so I might have shares and likes here, but what if I had shares and likes here? It's like punching yourself in the face, like you're competing with yourself. Like, why would you do that? And so maybe this is a oops one time, but if you scroll down, like, right, 2 posts. So here again, I didn't learn the first time. I'm gonna punch myself in the face again, right? I'm gonna compete with my own content, and so look out for that, because something's going on there where you're getting double content. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. That definitely. Yeah. Is an important point to make, is to pay attention to your own stuff. And I know sometimes it's not always easy to do, because you just want to push publish and get things going. But if you have somebody, like in this case, a parent who might be a board member or something like that, help to review and say, oh, by the way, we're double posting, we need to stop doing that, punching ourselves in the face. That's an easy thing to clean up, and it does have a big impact on it looking cleaner and more professional and a little bit more like what you're doing on Facebook.
Yep. So Don, I'm going to go with this image, right? And I'm going to preface this that I am saying this out of love and respect, and it's nothing towards the person who photoshopped it or nothing towards the person who picked it, but I just want to say it this way. Don, when I look at this photo, I get warm fuzzies, right? And if I look at this little girl down here and she's smiling and she's at her desk, I think of my daughter when she's at school, and it makes me happy. Like, my heart just feels like, full of joy, and all of these pictures right here. I come over here because here the kids are the heroes. The kids who are the kids who are learning to be responsible, respectful, and resourceful, they're the heroes. I come over here and I see this image, and Don, I gotta be honest with you, I'm like, is this a compound? Like, I start to think of like Shawshank Redemption, or the kid in the striped pajamas, like any one of those movies you can name that just like kind of makes you feel like depressed and sad, and I'm like, no, Like this image should be a picture of the kids and they should be smiley and happy. And I shouldn't see fences and bricks and because it just doesn't make me feel the same way, right? I want you to think about, like, look at this picture and really think about it, and then look at these boys, and you can feel the difference. You
Absolutely.
can feel the difference. And so, I mean, I get it. It's kids playing, sorta. They're black and white. The rest of the photos color. But anyway, so that's for their social.
Yes.
Redo the
And I
cover image.
and I will piggyback off that. One of the things that you could do if you wanted to include kind of that outdoorsy image is do a collage of pictures of kids with a picture like this as part of the background. So you'd cover up the Shawshank Redemption towers and all that kind of stuff. But you could have those kids more front and center. And the one comment I did have about those kids there is it looks almost like ghost children, because
Yeah.
they're a little bit transparent and
Yep.
black and white, and so it's a little bit, it's not nearly what it's like the warm fuzzy color photos that you see on the other parts of the site.
Yeah, and Don, what you might even be able to do is go around to the front of the building over here and get like 6 or 8 kids to kind of be doing something and take a shot that's kind of lower to the ground looking up at the building on a really nice beautiful day because then you're going to have happy kids and blue skies and the entrance of the building and I would much rather see something like that than the back of this like Land of Narnia overgrown ghost kid like image thing that we have now torn apart, which again I say it out of the utmost respect for the folks who are managing this Facebook page and doing design and stuff. So
Can I add one more thing on this
yep,
Facebook
yep.
page? So one of the other things to keep in mind is one of my favorite Facebook pages. I am not a coffee drinker, so I'll qualify, and I know I'm weird in that way. But I love what Dunkin' Donuts does with their Facebook page. And what they do is they routinely have pictures of their Dunkin' Donuts Facebook fan of the week. So it's like, who is their customer of the week? And what they do is they have a background of like a Dunkin' Donuts background, and then what they do is they highlight somebody who is like I said, a fan of their product. And what it's ended up doing is it's built tremendous online value for them as a company. And one of the things that they could potentially do to keep this kind of rotating and fresh as well at times is, you could potentially follow that model of Dunkin' Donuts and have something like a teacher of the month where you're profiling the teachers because people do want to know who are my kids going to be hanging out with, what are the teachers like, something like that. So if sometimes there's well, you can't use actual kids because you want to be careful with some of the stuff that can go on with kids. That's another option that they could potentially do.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually love that idea. That's a really good idea, Don. So, okay, let's we're running a little bit out of time here, but let's go ahead and bump over to the next social network, and that is Twitter. So, boom, here we go.
All right.
Okay,
So what
so
happened to my logo?
yeah, right. I mean, so here's the deal. We already talked about the picture, so let's figure out something for them to do there, and we won't talk about it on this section. But yeah, the logo, right? That was the first thing that I thought of, and you know what else, Don, is on Facebook. I don't know why this message got lost everywhere else. Timeless education since 1970. Like that's nowhere in
Hmm.
their Twitter bio. Like I don't know. So, but here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say. They have followers. They're following some people. They're using lists. They're not. It doesn't look like they're double posting on Twitter. There's some video, which is awesome. You know what? Now that we see that video on Twitter, uh-oh, maybe there
Why
could be
isn't
some.
it?
Right, right. Maybe there
Yeah,
should be some video on the homepage, John.
absolutely.
Hmm. Okay. Well,
And if you look at it, I'm a huge fan of video because that the amount of video being consumed is going up. It's like with audio is just going up leaps and bounds, and you know, I that would be a fantastic addition to their homepage.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Okay, Don, this is the part where we kind of sum up and we give them 3 to 4 action items that we think they should work on first. And what say you?
So I'll give you the first one. The first one, I think that would be really valuable, and I'm sure they have it if a parent comes in and they go out and they speak at an event, that they hand out different tips and techniques for choosing the right school for your children, and have that be some type of pop-up on the homepage, or some type of call, and or some type of call to action on the homepage to say, hey, we're here. We want to help you make the best decision, whether it's us or somebody else, the best decision for your child, and here's something of value. They kind of have that feel throughout the whole site, but I think making that obvious to people to show right away you're there and you're on their side, regardless of what they choose, would amplify that trust, and it would. I know as a parent myself of 3 younger kids, I would be much more likely to hang out on a site that has something like that.
Definitely, definitely, Don. So here's what I'll say. I'll give another one, and then maybe you give the last one, and then we'll close up this episode. Um, Here's what I'll say, and I hadn't really paid attention to this until you mentioned it, but I think it's large enough that it would be the action item that I would give them to do. On the homepage, you say, what is the right school for my children? And when I click on this link,
Mm-hmm.
you sell me or you tell me about Montessori. That's a totally different conversation. I didn't ask what
Absolutely.
Montessori was. I actually was asking by clicking that, yeah, I want to know what school is right for me. So, um, you know, maybe break it down into a section, 2 or 3 pieces in here that talk about public school. And I'm sure if they're doing a blog, Don, that they have some versus articles like
Mm-hmm.
public school versus Montessori school, or
I think I saw one that was Waldorf versus Montessori. What's the difference in philosophies? And
right, right. So maybe there's a piece that, 2 or 3 things they talk about that and even link to the blog articles. And then, sure, tell me your entire story about what is Montessori after that, and add some pictures, by the way, while you're telling me
sure.
that story. But tell me that story after you've addressed what is my conversation I'm trying to have. Is, yeah, what are my options? What is the right school on that piece? So what's another action item we can give them, Don?
So another action item that I would do is make that banner, that header, consistent on all of the pages. As you pointed out, when you go to an internal page, the navigation moves down from being pushed very up close top to that green blue bar, and then you have the social media accounts. I think it's important to maintain consistency with this. This one is a better option. It's still the one on the blog, I think, is a better option. It's not perfect, but it's a better option, at least moving in the right direction. Because I do think it's important to show some of your connection and engagement on social. And I will add one more. I love, if on this page, I love that graphic for the open house. Visuals are so valuable in this day and age with the rise of Pinterest, the rise of Instagram, places like that. And they don't have this on their other social media accounts. They don't have the visual for their open house, and they're not posting that. I don't know why. But I think that is an easy thing to quickly add. I know it's coming up really really soon, but having that more visible, I think is a quick, easy fix that can help them out.
All right, well, I'm going to throw one last one. Change that image. Okay, so you have been watching. I had to do that, Don. I had to do it. So hang on. Change that image. Okay, so you've been watching episode 3 of Freebie Fridays with Mr. Don Stanley and myself. If you would like us to look at your site, give you some actionable website and social media tips, tricks, just get in touch with us. We love doing these things. It's a way that we feel that we're giving back. And until next time, folks, keep rocking out the interwebs.
Absolutely. And one last thing before we shut off, and that is, if you make any adjustments to your site and you want us to highlight you, kind of hey, we're going to take some of the tips and advice and actually apply them, let us know. We'd love to feature the changes you're making, and seeing you and your digital marketing improve and get better.
Absolutely. We want to do that Shark Tank update on Freebie Fridays.
There you go.